Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
What is up?
Not much, man. Just getting back in the swing of things. Been out of town, and now we're catching up on the podcast. One of my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
Quick announcements, then we'll get into some other stuff. So, just going to stick with the same announcements for a while. Until the book comes out, I'll be saying go to killingcomfort.com to get on the pre-release list, launch, whatever you want to call it, for before the book comes out. That's still a ways out, just so everyone knows. Like, I'm pretty much done with the book, but now it needs to be edited, and like there's just a lot of other things that need to happen before we push it out. But if you are on that list, I'm going to start sending out probably in December like little chapter snippets and secrets, and start revealing some bigger picture ideas and stuff behind the book. So if that's interest you at all, and you want to kill some comfort, become a better human, go to killingcomfort.com, check that out. Also, Ask Me Anything. Those are coming here in the next couple weeks. We do have a lot of them, but if you want to add to it and make sure that it gets answered, I'm committed to answering every single one right now. If you submit and ask me anything, either topic or whatever, if it's big enough for a topic, maybe we cover it in the podcast. If not, it'll just be an AMA episode. But we do have a lot, and I will answer every single one, all of them. 100% committed to doing 100%. So if you have one, garagegymathlete.com/AMA, and you just submit that any point in time, I get notified. We're going to do something awesome. Joe's excited about it. I'm excited about it. That's it. And then we're sponsored by broccoli, because I'm eating my vegetables. I had broccoli last night with some steak. That's right. Not vegan. Gigantic steak and some broccoli. And that's about it. Maybe I'll save my update for coming off the vegan experiment. But I want to get updates from you first. How are things? How's life?
Good. I've been going to physical therapy for my shoulder now. I was doing for my hip for most of the week, or most of the year. But now I'm on my shoulder because of some mobility and different movement issues. And I started to have pain go down to my elbow some. So getting that fixed, and it's been good. I've kind of preferred it more to my hip, because with the shoulder, it seems like I'm almost getting like instant feedback and how things are moving, versus hip. It was just things were stuck, and it was just very, very, very much baby steps, but that's been good.
And come on, let's be honest. It's a social thing.
Yeah. It's the only social interaction I have.
Joe is not as broken as he leads you to believe. He just really, he has some cool physical therapists that he works with.
Yeah, they are really, really fun, and they're really great here in San Diego. So also, when you are work out at home and work from home, and all you talk to is your dog, you kind of need to get out of the house sometimes. So it's a good experience.
Well, I just, full disclosure, I had a miniature freak out moments ago with Joe, not on Joe, just Joe was a part of it, because we recently switched platforms. I don't need to get into all the details of the running and behind the scenes of an online business, but basically the new one, I feel like I'm screaming in an echo chamber of solitude, because it's so hard to communicate with a team. We used to use Slack, and we're probably going to start doing that again. Slack was awesome because we could communicate with each other all day. It felt a little less lonely, doing the working from home and running an online business thing. But I was starting to feel extra lonely, not being able to communicate as frequently. So we got to get Slack back on track. Slack back on track.
Especially while everybody is in the same country for the first time and won't be or will be for only a couple of months.
Well, is VD here right now? You weren't counting him, were you?
Oh, no. He's
Burn.
Sorry, VD. You almost never counted.
Yeah. So Ashley's back in the States. That's an update that I'm stealing from her, either because she's not here, but she is back in the States. It's gonna be interesting, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. And then another. This is a hot update. The orange creamsicle protein shake is officially back.
Did it go somewhere?
Well, back for me. I mean.
Oh, okay.
Just me.
We're still in updates. Yeah, got it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So when we did the first experiment of I'm going to try this orange creamsicle thing with orange juice and vanilla protein, it was like when I first tried it, I was like, okay, this is different, but it's pretty good, it's decent. And then of course I had to finish the jug, and I was like, okay, yeah, that wasn't bad. But then like a month or so later, I was like, I'm really craving that now. And it was weird because I wasn't before,
and sugar,
then
man.
it just kind of grew on me. Well, just that instant carbs after you work out, and I think. The orange juice I bought is pretty good, but it's still. So that is, and I only do about half OJ, half almond milk.
And by what standard? Like what's half? What do you mean half? Like
whatever liquid I used to put in. So whatever
like
it was
6 to 8 ounces.
8 to 10 maybe.
Got it.
I don't know. I have a line on my shaker and I fill it up to whatever amount that is, and half is half.
You know what? I got so good at filling up water bottles with 8 ounces of water. I know how much 8 ounces. I know what that feels like. Like if you give me a plastic cup, or it can't be like a heavy glass because that's gonna throw me off. But if it's like a plastic cup and you're like, how close is this to 8 ounces? I mean, plus or minus half an ounce, I'm good to go.
I'm gonna test this in North Carolina.
Do it. Measure out 6 ounces, 7 ounces, 8, 9, and we'll see if I can guess which one's 8. We'll do it. Is that it? You got any more updates?
Let's go. I'm going for updates.
Okay. My updates, not a lot of craziness going on. Let's see. Training's good. I was traveling a lot this past week, which always throws my training out of whack a little bit. But what I did get to do, which was cool, was the EO3 5K, which I haven't been able to do. Like, it's popped up in our programming, but I typically don't do it on Saturdays because it's a Meet Yourself Saturday workout, and I'm doing Murph. And so I got to do the EO3 5K this week. I did that while I was traveling. That was awesome. I think I PR'd, but I also am not 100% sure how, like if it was 100, like if it was 800 meters exactly. So I could have, I don't want to count it as a PR because I think I may have been like, I could have been like 25 meters off on each 800. So, but it was a lot faster. So anyway, that was cool. Let's see. You said your shoulder hurt. I went and did. Have you ever heard of iFly?
No.
So they're indoor wind tunnels.
Oh, okay.
Indoor skydiving.
My mind wasn't even there. You were like, oh, shoulder pain. Cool. Let's talk about flying in the air.
You reminded me of it. I forgot about it for a second because a buddy of mine who went with me, he went I don't know, indoor skydiving with me, and his arm went completely numb. His shoulder got like impinged while we were doing the skydive thing.
I can see that.
And then he lost like all the feeling in his arm for like a day, full day, which was pretty crazy.
Been there.
But I had a lot of fun doing that. That's just a cool thing I wanted to talk about because it was fun. Got to learn how to fly in a wind tunnel a little bit. It's a good time.
So how could you not post that on Instagram or social media when you do wind tunnel flying, but you post other stuff? Let's just see your degree of social media sharing.
I'm bad at that. You're right. That is true. Other people posted me doing it on Instagram, but you'd have to go follow them to figure it out, I guess. Yeah. I'm bad at social media.
Just remaining anonymous.
Well, I'm bad at social media right now because I'm like not super focused on it when I'm traveling. I use it a lot less. And so that's what it kind of like gets out of my cross check, if you know what I mean. Like I'm not thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I'll send you a video.
In the moment. Yeah. Cool.
I think that's it for updates for me. I thought I had one more. Oh, yeah, I'm not vegan anymore. I'm back to lower carbohydrate. This is something I want to talk about. This was the bigger update. I don't think I talked about. Did I talk about ketosis yet? I didn't talk about that.
No, I don't think so. Sometimes it's just mentioned that sometimes you think you fall into it, but
So yeah, I didn't know if I talked about it on the podcast yet, or maybe just with you guys, or not at all. But I started pissing on ketone strips again after my vegan experiment, because I was really like, I don't know, I was just like wanted to check to see what was going on after the conversation with Rob Wolf about how many carbohydrates he thought I could have and still be in ketosis versus that super high carb vegan thing was killing me. And basically every morning I'm in ketosis, like I'm peeing ketones every morning, and I am not trying to be ketogenic at all. And so I bump myself out of ketosis the second I break my fast. Like I'm not in ketosis all day. But that's why I felt like such crap, because my body can go into ketosis with my normal diet, which is, I'd say, moderate carb. I'm not going to say it's definitely not high carb like it was vegan, but I'm not eating like 50 grams of carbs a day. I'm probably around 200, pretty easily, I would say. Just getting up to 3 is like where it starts to get dicey for me, I guess. Well, anyway, even up to 200 grams of carbohydrates, still in ketosis according to these strips. I'll let other people argue whether or not they're accurate. I don't really care that much because I'm not trying to be in ketosis. But I think it's interesting because it's definitely have ketones. So I just find that very interesting, because I think that opens or answers a lot of questions about why I felt so bad on vegan. If you're going from your body utilizing ketones as energy and being in ketosis to forcing your body to like be, no, carbs are the only source of energy, like that's probably why I had such a crazy transition, because it's almost two metabolic, like different ends of the spectrum, right? Like they're just completely opposite ends of the spectrum. And so I think that's why I did that. But yeah, I'm in ketosis in the morning when I fast. So that's not bragging about it, because it's not cool.
Yeah.
Not cool to even talk about. I just think it's interesting. So.
Yeah, I'd be almost interested to do that for me too. I don't think I'd slip into it as easily as you, but I constantly fast a lot for every day, and I work out fasted as well. I just don't know how that works for me, at least. It's almost like you would need to do like high carb paleo for a couple of weeks before you even try vegan again.
Yeah, I would have to. Well, it's crazy. I mean, I eat like sweet potatoes with my lunch and stuff like that. I'm not afraid of carbohydrates by any means.
Yeah.
But I guess I can just have more carbohydrates than I thought. And again, like I said, I'm not trying to be in ketosis. It just happens. But if anybody wants to try it, if they're interested, if they're doing fasting and relatively low carb, I mean, keto pea strips cost next to nothing on Amazon. They'll be at your house today. So, go ahead and order some if you're interested, if you're in that boat.
Yeah. I definitely think I'm lower carb than you do. I do lower carb than you do. So
maybe it's there, man. Check it out. Buy them. They're like $5. Get some.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. We can talk about the Meet Yourself Saturday workout real quick, and then we'll get into this episode. Let's talk about the episode first, briefly. There's not a ton to talk about, and then we'll get into Meet Yourself Saturday, and then we can roll into the interview. So this is Cindy Lynch.
Yep.
And she is a Spartan racer. So another Tahoe episode. We interviewed a bunch of different people while we were out in Tahoe. You guys got Kelly Starrett, Julie Starrett, Rob Wolf, and now this is Cindy Lynch. So now this is more of an athlete perspective of someone who's there. She had a really interesting background of going, kind of getting beat up on the roads, running, more typical running, high volume, long distance type stuff. And then she switched to Spartan races, and trail running in general is not as taxing on your body. I know that sounds weird, like it might be counterintuitive, but we're not meant to run on concrete. You know what I mean? And like you take steps differently. Like everything's different when you're running on a trail. It's actually a little bit better for you, and it's softer ground most of the time, right? So anyway, she switched. She's crazy busy. She has kids. She's running a business. She just has a lot going on. She's still managing to compete at a really high level. So I think that was a really interesting story and always a great takeaway for garage gym athletes in general. And it's a good one. Anything else you wanna throw in there, or your takeaways?
Yeah, she was great because she's your everyday athlete. She's a mom. She has a full-time job. She's busy, but she's competing at a very high level. She's won a few races or was ranked in a few different things. She talks about her trial doing, what was it, a 100-mile race, I think she did. Something ridiculously long. And then I think when she got injured or something, she did shorter races and then kind of fell into OCR. So it's cool to kind of hear her journey, but also get perspective of, a lot of these events, people are the elite athletes where that's kind of the main thing that they do, but she's juggling being a single mom and working and all that stuff and still getting it in. And I started following her on Instagram, and she's always out on the trail here in San Diego as well, which you can be year round.
Yeah,
so that's pretty nice.
You're
gonna brag about it.
You don't have much longer, man.
Yeah.
All right, so
yeah.
This week's Meet Yourself Saturday, walk the plank. Are you familiar with it? I have it pulled up, so I'll.
I am not actually. Yeah. This is one of the.
So you Zercher walk with. So you've never done it. All right. So Zercher walk with a barbell, 10 rounds for max distance each round. Weight equals 50 to 60% of your body weight. Rest between rounds 2 minutes. Rest is in the plank position. So it's walk, Zercher walking with planking. That's why it's called walk the plank. So one more time, 10 rounds. You go for max distance with 50 to 60% of your body weight. You rest 2 minutes between rounds, and that rest is in the plank position. So it's pretty straightforward and pretty taxing.
Yeah.
So hearing it, do you have any tips, tricks, or strategies?
Not really. It might be awkward if you're doing it around your neighborhood because, carrying barbell itself around neighborhoods, you're going to get the awkward looks or depending on where you can carry it, but then trying to do planks like on the sidewalk. So you might, I don't know. I guess take it to a field if you can.
Yeah.
It might be a little bit nicer.
And it's going to be, if you truly do the whole thing, your core is going to be engaged the entire time. You're doing a Zercher walk. You are then placing the weight down and going into a plank. So there's just so much stabilization in this. Your core should be fried in a pretty good way. And if you want to scale down from 50 to 60% of your body weight, that's like a rough estimate. That might be a lot for some people. That might be not heavy for other people. Really, whatever you want it to be, because you're just trying to walk as far as you can with that weight and then putting it down. And so it doesn't have to be super super heavy, but you don't want it to be too easy. If you're going to go too light, if you're going to go with a 45-pound bar and just walk all day, it's not going to be that taxing. So I think the heavier you can handle without hurting yourself is a good measure there. But also on the plank, 2-minute plank can be a long time, especially for 10 rounds. That's 20 minutes of planking.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to share the love, I guess is the best way I could put it, in a plank. And this is like a strategy I normally walk people through if I've been training them in person and they're struggling with the plank, because I don't want you, if your butt goes in the air, you're done. You're not planking anymore. If you ever put your butt in the air, you are no longer planking. So technically, if I was your coach in person watching you do, I would stop the clock and be like, no, we need 2 minutes of plank and you're resting right now. Likewise, if you bring your hips towards the ground, also resting, and bad for your back. So don't do that. But the share the love approach, try flexing different muscle groups during the plank. One, it kind of takes your mind off of things, but two, it actually helps. So try flexing your glutes, then flexing your abs, then flexing your quads, and then flexing your shoulders. If you have that much kinesthetic awareness, getting your deltoids flexed, chest flexed, and just rotate through those muscle groups over and over again, almost like a circle, down the back, butt, quads, up to the abs, chest, shoulders, back down to the back, just keep going through that. It does kind of keep your mind off things, but it also actually helps you kind of engage different muscles throughout the plank and get less fatigued. So that's a strategy I don't think I've shared before here on the podcast, so hopefully people can utilize that one.
Yeah, pelvic tilt and booty squeeze can make a big difference. I do it now with planks. Okay, so it is accumulate 2 minutes of a plank.
Well,
not just.
It's supposed to be rest 2 minutes in the plank position. It's like hell rest, But the only thing is you can kind of cheat a plank. It's easier to cheat a plank than it is true hell. With a barbell over your head, how we do on 30-30s, and then we say hell rest. If you don't need to bring the barbell down. If you do, you're not doing it right. So I would say yes, accumulate 2 minutes, but just don't cheat. Cheating. You can do it. It's 2 minutes. How long? What's a good plank for you? What's like the perfect duration of a plank?
Dude, I'm not a great measure for this. My core is not the best.
So ring rows and planks, not your friends.
Yeah, that hold is just, well, I don't work on my guns too much, so
It's the isometric contractions, man. The isometrics.
Yeah. Other ones I'm not too bad at, but yeah, those aren't very good.
Well, cool. You got anything else?
I don't think so. No, that's it.
All right. Well, here is Cindy Lynch talk about Spartan racing. Enjoy. All right, Cindy, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great. So excited.
Yeah, I'm glad to be sitting with you, catching up here at the Spartan Media Fest, which is awesome.
Oh, beautiful location. Can't beat it.
Yeah, so where are you from?
I'm from San Diego.
Oh, okay, that's where Joe's coming from, so awesome. How often do you come to Tahoe?
You know, I get up here a couple times a year. I just love this place. And it's somewhere I always thought I could also live.
It's
beautiful.
Magical, right?
It is magical. There's something special about it.
I know. Like, I wonder if I come here too much, if that'd get ruined.
You can't come here too much.
I know. I just absolutely love this place. I really, like, my wife and I came here a year or two ago for vacation for the first time ever, and we just absolutely fell in love with it. But
yeah,
it's
there's something special about Tahoe.
Yeah, it's my retirement plan. It's a long-term, long-range, get to Tahoe somehow.
Oh, absolutely. You got to do it.
Awesome. Well, I definitely want to dive into a couple things with you, but I'd love to just get a little background on you first. And really, you can take me back as far as you want or as short as you want, just to kind of tell me where you've been and what you've done, and then we'll kind of catch up with today's stuff.
Okay, great. Yeah, I kind of started with running, but later in life, my sport in high school was gymnastics of all things, and I was horrible at it. I'm too tall, and it was just a way to, get my letter, get through high school. But I took up running in my late 20s and just kind of fell in love with it. I started with a local 5K. I'm like, gosh, that was really fun. I'm going to do it again next year. And after a few races, just kind of continued to push myself. I want to do a half marathon. And then it was, I want to qualify for Boston. And so I did the road running for years, probably 10 years. I ran Boston Marathon 9 times. And just as I got older, the pounding started to get to me, like the roads, and injuries started coming. As you know, as you get older, those injuries sneak up more and more often, and you don't bounce back as quickly. So I kind of transitioned into trail running and then ultra running. So I got into the ultra running scene down in San Diego and just loved it. It's a great way to be out on the trails and, not beat your body, and you're running in beautiful places. So I got into ultra running, and I did a 50K, a 100K, a 50 miler, North Face 50. I did that a few times up in San Francisco. But I got injured, and I was out of running for probably 6 months. And so, as you know, being an injured runner is not a happy person.
Right.
So I had to find another outlet, and I had some friends that were doing obstacle stuff. And so this is fun. We're doing these Spartan races. It's super cool. Come check it out. Just come to the local obstacle. We have a gym called MROC in Oceanside down in San Diego, and they set up like an obstacle workout on Saturdays where you're doing intervals and just... So I showed up and I said, okay, what are we doing? Let's do this. And I had so much fun, and I worked so hard, like it kicked my butt. And I'm like, oh, this is really fun. Like maybe I'll try an obstacle race. And so I did it. I did a warrior dash, and which I think is kind of like a beginner obstacle.
Yeah.
It's like cross country race with, a few obstacles, and I won it. And I'm like, oh, maybe I could be good at this.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, kind of the rest is history. I got into Spartan and just fell in love with, the challenge of the obstacles in addition to the beautiful mountain locations and the trails.
So there's something very interesting there. You found that trail running, so you said you're kind of getting beat up by the road, and then injuries started popping up. You went to trail running and not as many injuries, feeling a little bit better. How about to straight obstacle course racing? How do you feel about the injury prevalence? Do you feel like it's less? Maybe your training's a little bit different. How does that work for you?
I think the training is definitely different. You have to have, some strength conditioning and just full body training. I learned that lesson early because I did have a few shoulder injuries, and from doing these things I've never done, I've never used my arms in a race before. So the first couple of races were super humbling, and you just have to kind of wrap your head around, okay, I have to approach it differently than a running race, and kind of incorporate a lot of grip strength and strength training and just overall technique with obstacles. It was a whole different training program for me, but I found it fun, like less boring than just going out and clocking the miles.
Yeah, I agree. So maybe a more strength and conditioning, balanced strength and conditioning approach gave you like more resilience towards injury.
Absolutely. And with the strengthening comes speed. You actually find yourself getting stronger out there and faster. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so on top of racing, what else are you doing and working on these days?
Oh my goodness, what am I not doing? Well, I'm a single mom of 2 boys, so they keep me super busy. They play hockey, and my oldest actually has his first cross country race today. I'm so bummed I'm missing it, but so they're getting active and busy. And I have my own athletic apparel company called Running Skirts, which I started with my twin sister 14 years ago. And so I do that in addition to a technical job. So
Yeah.
I've got a lot of balls in the air.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. And that's one thing I kind of wanted to dive into a little bit, because you're not just, doing all these things and then, an occasional 5K. You're competing at a really high level. Like you're just at that elite level as far as, athletes are concerned. So how is it possible to manage all this?
I learned the hard way by when I first got into Spartan. It's when they had the Masters category too, so I could go out and I could race and I could actually double podium, and you get like 2 paychecks, and so it was really addictive. And I wanted to race, so I raced back-to-back days, and I wanted to do all the venues I could because my business would be a sponsor. So I'd go and work, stand all day, and then race. And I just beat myself up and ended up injuring myself, and I was out for 9 months in 2018. So I kind of had to take a step back and say, okay, you cannot do this all. You have to actually be selective about what your goals are. You have to have balance, and there's no way you can compete with the people that it's their job full time just to go out and train. I mean, they get up and they go run and they take a nap and they eat, and that's not reality for me. So I just became really disciplined at taking a step back and deciding, what 1 or 2 key races would be for me in the year, and then just focusing on them. And then as far as all the other things in life, I get up at 4 a.m. and train in the morning. So I find it best for me to have it done and kind of home before I'm missed and before the house wakes up. And that way it's just not hanging over my head through the day, just getting it done. And that's kind of my personal time. So for me, that works. I know a lot of people go, oh my God, 4 a.m., there's no way. But just carving out time for yourself is the most important.
Yeah, so 4 a.m., how long are you training?
Oh, it varies, 1 to 2 hours.
Okay, and how many days per week?
7.
7 days per week.
But 1 day is a rest day of training. So it's I go to the gym and I'm on the foam roller. I'm in the sauna stretching. And
okay, awesome.
I call it a rest day.
Yeah.
Active rest.
You can't foam roll at the house with like a puppy and 2 kids.
Oh.
You cannot focus on stretching.
Puppies in your face.
You have to remove yourself. But
awesome.
It works for me.
That's cool. And so how about recovery? Have you taken any new recovery tactics or strategies over the last couple of years?
Yes, I learned a lot the year I got injured, and just being out 9 months, that was heartbreaking. I mean, making the pro team and then not being able to race, it was awful. And so I have definitely learned a lot with respect to how much I can push myself, what my limits are, and just listening to my body. I mean, before I had a coach and I had these miles, and I would just go if it were like the end of the day and I still hadn't done that, 10-mile run. I would drag my entire body out and just hammer myself just to try to check off the box of the training week. And it was like digging a super deep hole. So I don't do that anymore. I really listen to my body. And like I said, I try to get it done in the morning. If I don't feel good or if I'm tired, I say, I'm not going to do it today. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll be better. And just learning to be more flexible, I think, has gone a long way. And with respect to recovery, super focused on, recovery nutrition and rest and sleep and hydration and keeping all the pieces together. I mean, as you get older, it gets trickier to stay fit.
Like the most important piece, right? Like recovery is
so important.
Really like it can't be ignored at all.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Okay, so I want to kind of shift gears for a second. I'd love to hear the story of your hardest or most challenging race, event, anything, because you've done a lot. So if you could pick one, what was the hardest one that you've done? Hardest
Spartan or hardest anything? I can do one Spartan.
Let's do hardest Spartan and then hardest lifetime.
I think I've done 2 Ultra Beasts now, and I think in the moment I thought they were both the hardest. I did Breckenridge and I just did Hawaii. But since it's so fresh, like the suffering is so fresh in my mind from Hawaii, that I'm going to say it was Hawaii.
Okay, yeah.
It was just brutal. It was in the 90s, probably 95% humidity. It was raining that morning, so all the obstacles were wet, and It's a 50K race, so 30 miles. And by mile 13 or 14, I started cramping, which is super early in that kind of distance. So the whole second lap was just a struggle with like even my hands cramped. Just I didn't have enough electrolytes, just not enough hydration. I couldn't get enough. And so it was just a suffer-fest battle.
Yeah, environmentally, trying to train in San Diego, you can't really get the high levels of humidity. And then for other ones, you can't get the altitude either. Because I live in San Diego, and I've done a Cirque Series race where you start at super high elevation and you're just going even higher. And it's really hard to replicate that.
I know.
Training.
And cold acclimation, too.
Tomorrow.
We're screwed.
Yeah.
I was talking earlier. Yeah. I tried to take cold showers this week, but the water in San Diego does not come out of the spout cold.
Yeah.
I mean, it's lukewarm.
I talk about this all the time. So I live in Texas, and during the summertime, a cold shower is a lukewarm shower just because the pipes don't get cold. They're not like far enough underground or whatever the case is. So I can't take a cold shower until it's wintertime. But so you have to like actually go ice bath or whatever if you want to do any cold exposure training.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's what do you think is worse? Extreme heat and humidity or cold?
I'm going to say cold just because I absolutely hate being cold. But in that moment, like cramping that early and knowing I still had, 18 miles to go with cramps, it was brutal and miserable and just went to a very dark place.
Yeah.
So I think I came out of it. I mean, and it ended well. It has a happy ending, but there was, several miles of a lot of self-doubt and second guessing. And when you're out there, it's too late to rethink what you have on you.
And so how do you overcome something like that when you're like pretty close to, I mean, it's not the beginning of the race, but pretty early on in a race like that, and you're like, you start doubting yourself and like you're not sure what's going to happen next. Like, what do you do? What's the self-talk there to get you through it?
You kind of got to go deep inside yourself and remember, for me, I remember all the hard workouts I did and how hard and how focused I was on this race. And are you really, questioning, are you really willing to like give it up at this point? I mean, is there anything we can do to turn this around? Everybody else is suffering just as much as you are. You're an ultra runner. You can do this, just, you got to get creative. My kids were at the finish line, so that was a big driving force.
Huge,
just having a strong finish and being excited because they can't always come to these locations. So, it was a battle.
Yeah, for sure. So that's hardest Spartan. What about hardest event?
The hardest event I ever did was a 100-mile race. It was the only 100-mile race I've done so far, but I wasn't exactly appropriately trained for it. Mm-hmm. I was doing San Diego has an Ultra Slam Grand Trail Series, so it starts with a 50K and then a 50-miler, then a 100K, and the year finishes with a 100-mile race. So at the time, I really enjoyed doing 50K races, 50-mile race, kind of my wheelhouse. It was a good challenge, but you didn't destroy yourself. You weren't out for a month or two. And so it just happened that I won all three of those first events. And so the race director for the 100-mile race came up to me and he said, no one's ever won the whole slam, like all four distances. I mean, you should give it a go. And I said, I'm not running 100 miles. There's no way. I wasn't prepared for this 50-mile. No. And so he said, okay, well, just think about it. You could do something really special. And so, of course, he got in my head. And a week later, I said, okay, I'm going to do it. But was not prepared. And so I was out there for 22 hours just suffering and shuffling and hiking. And it was tough.
That sounds really brutal. So walk me through that race a little bit. What's the fueling situation like? What were the hardest problems you kind of ran into? Was it just a beat up body, or were there any fueling problems? Because I know that can be a major factor if you're not like specifically trained for doing that. Like, I mean, you're a trained runner, obviously, but 100 miles is a different beast. Right.
I kind of just took the same nutrition plan that I had for the other distances, the 50 mile, and just kind of hoped that I could stretch it out and it would work. And if you're not familiar with ultra runs, they set up full aid stations, and it's like they have everything. It's a picnic. There's peanut butter and jelly. There's boiled potato. There's salt. There's Snickers bars. I mean, there's everything. So there's actually a lot of support out there if you need it. But I stuck with my plan, and the nutrition was good. The hard part, it was about 109 degrees in the canyons up there in the mountains of San Diego. There were rattlesnakes. It was just a relentless, rocky course. And I think just stomping along, staring at the ground for 22 hours.
Right.
It takes a certain mental strength. But in ultra running, you do get pacers too, which are nice because you can alternate, your running friends and to keep you happy and going.
So you can like bring in a pacer.
After 50 miles, you get company, which is huge.
That is huge. That's awesome. 100 miles. So I did a 100-mile bike race, which is like nothing compared to a 100-mile run. I can't even imagine.
It's still a long day.
Yeah, I can't imagine 22 hours of running. That just do you sleep in that time frame at all?
No, you don't sleep. You pretty much keep going. I mean, with all the caffeinated gels and they have Coke or whatever on the course, I was kind of just in the zone of, I didn't realize how much time had gone by. I think it was maybe 11 o'clock at night, and I was thinking it was 7 p.m. And they're like, yeah, it's 11 o'clock. It's almost midnight. I'm like, what? Wow, this is crazy. But yeah, time kind of flies, and you're going through the night. You're in the dark, and
yeah,
it's crazy.
And okay, so after the race, what was the recovery like for something like that? Like, were you destroyed, or did you bounce back pretty fast?
I actually wasn't destroyed. I had no injuries. Took a couple weeks off from running. I just kind of chilled, cross-trained, and kind of slowly eased into it. It was kind of like, okay, I've done all the distances. I mean, let's move on. I don't know if this is for me.
Yeah. So Spartan races specifically like that, you like this way more than ultras?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
It's so fun. It's kind of like a short ultra, but with fun obstacles and the mystery of all. You don't know what's coming, and it's a lot of fun.
That's really cool. So a question we ask a lot of our guests, what's like one activity that you think is super important for building mental toughness? Because there's no way you get through anything that you're doing without some form of mental toughness. So if someone could practice it at home, what would you suggest they start doing?
Doing the hardest workouts. I mean, the hardest workouts are what you, or at least what I, think back on when I'm in those dark places. Like, remember that day you did that crazy tempo run and it was super hot and you didn't have any water. I mean, I just revisit all the hard training I put in, say this is not as hard as that, and just keep yourself focused on what you've done and how much work you put in. I think that goes a long way.
That's awesome.
I'm sure kids also keep you mentally tough.
Oh my goodness, yes.
So how old are your kids?
They're 11 and 8.
11 and 8, okay. And so what's it like balancing them in all of this? So you travel around a little bit, you're running multiple businesses really,
Mm-hmm.
and so how do you factor your kids into this? Part one of the question. Then part two, you mentioned one of them's into cross country. Was that correct?
Yeah, he's into cross country. He just asked last week ago because they haven't really been into running, and it's something I haven't pushed on them because I know someday they're going to love it and they're going to want to do it. And so he came to me last week and said, "Mommy, can you sign me up for the cross country team this year?" And I kind of like held it all inside. I'm like, I think we could do that. Yeah, let's do that. So
You went to the next room.
super pumped. Yes, I know. I'm so excited, but. Yeah, so they play hockey too, and so they're busy a lot. They have a busy schedule. What I've done this year a little differently is instead of trying to chase, the national series, because as a single mom with a business, it's just not possible. Number one, it's super pricey to travel.
Yeah.
And then, schedule and keeping all the balls in the air at home and keeping the business afloat. I just don't have the luxury of doing that many races. So I'm trying to plan my races around trips. Either the kids can come with me.
That's really
cool.
cool.
Events and kind of develop a vacation around it. That's what we did for Hawaii. We all went to Hawaii for a week and had a great time. Then mommy had a little race and then came home. It was great. So I'm trying to keep them involved as much as possible so that we can travel together.
Okay, and so I have a 7-year-old, 5-year-old, and an 18-month-old. So
Oh my goodness!
But I really want them to be into fitness, But at the same time, like you're saying, I don't want to push anything on them because I just feel like if I start doing that, they'll probably resent me for it or they'll hate it. So do you feel like it's just a continual practice, and it's something like you said your son just wanted to sign up for cross country? So do you think that it's a matter of just you putting in the work and letting them watch, and hopefully it develops on their own, or have you nudged them in that direction at all?
There's been little nudges like, hey, you want to sign up for the kids race? It's super fun. There's mud, and they'll do that. And there's other times where like, oh, I don't want to get cold, so I don't push it, and I haven't. But I think just being out there and for them to see, setting a goal. Like, mommy thinks she can do really good at this race in Hawaii, so I'm going to be training real hard. There's going to be some days where, I'm not going to be at your practice, but I'm going to be out there training because I want us to go on this trip and we're going to have a great time and mommy's going to have a great race. So I think just having them witness the whole process of setting a goal and achieving the goal kind of brings them in and kind of brings it all full circle so that hopefully someday they're like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like, I think I can do this. But yeah, I still don't suggest it just because I know that it's going to be there in the future and I just don't want to force it.
My first plant is here in a couple weeks. There's a Spartan race in Dallas, and that's where I'm located. And I've signed them up for the kids race. The 7-year-old's all about it. He's like, wants to do it. But my 5-year-old's fighting me about it. And I'm like, well, he doesn't really want to do it, I'm probably not going to force him to do it, but we're trying to, like, me and the 7-year-old, William, we're trying to, like, convince him to want to do it. That's why I always like to ask other people who have kids and are into fitness, you know, like what their approach is and everything like that, because you can't be too militant about it, but I don't want to be lackadaisical either.
He'll see all the fun you're having with your older son, and he'll want to do it. And my youngest, I held his hand. We walked through it the first time, and he had a blast. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't know that you could do that. I think that's what he's most worried about, is like getting trampled by other kids or something.
I think I'll let you, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're not doing the competitive one. Yeah, it's pretty casual.
It's going to be like the food story you told me yesterday. He's like, everybody else has food, and he doesn't want food. And then he sees everybody eating.
It's after the fact, you know? So
I want to order food now.
That's my second son.
Well, awesome. So the last kind of part I want to hit is really just advice. So we have garage gym athletes all around the world, really, and they're juggling a lot of things, much like you are. Maybe not competing at high of a level, but definitely just trying to get it all in. So what would your best advice be for them?
Oh, boy. Well, I say this all the time, but the hardest part about fitness and being on a schedule is actually lacing up your shoes. Like, just make the commitment to yourself to set a time where you have time for yourself to train. I know it's hard because we get busy and we get caught up and we feel guilty because, you know, we missed a soccer game or we're not there for the first cross-country race. But just setting that time aside for yourself, know that you are setting an example for your children and they are seeing you, like I said, commit to a goal and train hard and work towards that goal. And in the end, it's going to be you that inspires them.
Awesome, Cindy. Well, thank you for your time, and
thank
you
you
so much for being on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast.
Yeah, good luck in your race.
Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.